Welcome back to SD. Yes, continuing with, we'll take a look at some reactions and then preview what to expect today. We've got Mr. Nyukachi Obani here with us. He is the former second vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association. Thank you for coming on this
Thank
morning.
you, Chamberlain.
Well, just a quick response to what those gentlemen have said, the two-party chairman. Does the court, in the first instance, take cognizance of all of these things happening? Either, well, maybe not before. Well, it could be before today's judgment, or at what point, at any point whatsoever. Do they consider what happens in the court of public opinion?
Well, the court is constituted by human beings. They are not angels. They live in the society. They watch television. Some say they don't. Some of them also listen to radio. And of course, sometimes, get feelings of the reactions of the members of the public.
Justice is seen to have
been done and all that, and what's the reaction. But the most important thing is that judges should be bold enough to uphold the law. Issue of law is critical. The justice is applied, irrespective of any person's feeling, if you are satisfied that what you have done is pure justice, you don't need to be worried if people are reacting negatively. That also is very important. So to me, they are human beings. I'm sure they are seeing the reactions of members of the public, especially in Imo State, where people are reacting. But let me correct this. The issue of magic, that how can number 4 become number 1? And that is...
Before you go to that issue of magic, the responses that those party chairmen put, the party chairman, so people will listen to that.
Yes.
When first it was the PDP person asking that
the Supreme Court should reverse itself. Of course, that we must say that the Supreme Court cannot sit on appeal over his matter.
But they've done that. They've reversed themselves.
No. What they do is in subsequent case, not in a case they have decided. They have never sat down to, unless there is clerical error. If there's any clerical error, the Supreme Court
can... But it's not impossible for them to do that.
No, what I'm saying, if there is any clerical error, but not to sit on appeal over it, it has never happened in our history. They can review, they can reverse themselves, but not in the same case.
Even if you bring a fresh...
Yeah, if you bring a fresh matter, and probably they must admit, first and foremost, the Supreme Court must admit that it was an error. This case, has the Supreme Court agreed now that there is any error they have committed? That also is very key. The Supreme Court can only reverse itself if there is patent error they have committed, the ratio decided was wrong, patently wrong. Maybe they could in subsequent case, but not in the same case.
Could that be if the full judgment is out and then you look at the calculations, how they arrived at it? If that's a ground.
Now, if that's a ground of clerical error, I'm talking about, there is error.
Clerical error, mathematical error.
Yeah, small error, they can sit not on appeal now, but to correct whatever error has. Yeah, beautiful. No, but not to sit on appeal again over a matter.
So what if the fact of that case or the clerical error was tantamount, was what changed the course?
Bring injustice.
Yeah.
If that is done and there is that clerical error, they can, but not on appeal, as I said earlier. They can review that particular and correct it.
Right.
But not to sit on appeal over a case they have decided. So and reversing itself, as I said earlier, can only be in subsequent case, not in this case. But they must agree that they were in error.
So the second matter, which was that of the APC, where he says that Mr. I didn't have the spread.
Yes, that was not the issue. That was not the issue before the Supreme Court. The issue before the Supreme Court was the issue of exclusion. And we have said it, if you have 388 polling unit result that was excluded, and that was a contention of Hope Uzodimma, and you did not have INEC that came to court with the appeals, with evidence of the appeals, other incident form of from 40, saying that election did not take place in those, and with your witnesses.
Add that to the magic.
Beautiful. What the Supreme Court did now is to now take into cognizance all the votes that Uzodimma purportedly scored in those polling units, and then added it to what he had already been given by INEC, I think 96,000. By the time you added all those votes that he scored in those polling units, he now came up more than that of Ihedioha, more than that of Uchenwosu, and more than that of Ararume. And that was why number 4 became number. Because it's important we explain this. A lot of people just say, how can it be possible for number 4 to be number 1? It became number after you added. It's after addition. that his own vote now became more than that of other contestants.
You
Yes.
said
If
the
only we
case
could see
before
the
the Supreme
slide.
Court.
Yeah, go ahead.
You said the case before the Supreme Court
Yes.
is that of exclusion. Wasn't that the same thing before the other lower courts?
The lower, yes, their contention was that the lower court did not understand. The two lower courts didn't understand the case they made out. That what they
How
were.
does that affect jurisprudence?
Well, it affects, it's a unique relief. If you go to court, most times what the petitioners always argue is that there is non-compliance with the Electoral Act, that this person did not meet up the required votes. I mean, before he was declared the winner by INEC. But this man is saying, look, I'm not contesting that Ihedioha has been declared, with this result. But I'm saying my own results were not added, because if you have added my result, it would have made entire difference. That was his own unique relief. That
We'll hope to see those results on the screen,
Okay.
hopefully, so that you can speak to them as we progress. Go
Now,
ahead.
for you,
Yes.
Barrister Bani, how significant
Yes.
is the decision of the Supreme Court on this matter, given what has happened? In that, I mean, there is a way these elections used to happen.
Apple, yes.
But now it seems to be...
To me, there is a takeaway in this Supreme Court decision. The issue of onus, on the petitioner has always been too burdensome. Most times they will ask the petitioner for you to prove that there was non-compliance and all that. You need to have almost all the polling unit agents who will come. And of course, within the limited time, allowed by the Electoral Act for you to prove your cases, it's always an issue. It's a burdensome proof, you have to. But in this case, based upon what we have heard, that only 28 polling unit agents were called by Hope Uzodinma, and that the court relied mostly on the document that was, purportedly, brought to court by the police
as opposed to witnesses.
Yes, by the police officer. Remember, the police. I think it's PW 54 that came to give that evidence, and he didn't even speak to those documents and all that. So maybe the Supreme Court is now trying to lessen the burden that is placed upon the shoulder of the petitioner, because he had this onerous, responsibility of always bringing witnesses that must come to court physically
Now,
in order to speak to most of the documents. Yes.
Give us your perspective on these figures before
Yes.
we move on to what may likely happen today. So,
What
guys,
figures now?
Now the results.
Yes.
Which first there was that was declared where he scored 96,458.
Yes, 90, yeah, look at it,
So
yes.
this was the first one.
Yeah.
As declared by INEC.
That's right.
And so now to the next one, wherein after that declaration had happened from the returning officer, you could see that, yes, they had 27.
Local government.
Viewers can see that at home as well.
Yeah.
And then this also. So,
This is the total number of registered voters in Imo State.
exactly.
Yeah, that's
in
right.
those 27 local government
Beautiful.
areas. So if we go flip to the next one,
Yeah.
because there's that confusion about having collected all of those of the results.
yeah.
So they're just wondering how all of those collation eventually came to be. So it's not coming up yet, but,
my God.
but well, go ahead. You've spoken about the tally. So lots of people are confused about the total number of figures tallying with the total number of registered voters and votes cast, and how does it even tally with the State House of Assembly, their members in the House of Reps as well?
Okay, maybe has come up.
Okay,
Total accredited voters, according to INEC, is 823,743. Total votes cancelled across the states. Total valid votes, then total votes cast is this.
Yeah.
So how does this...
But remember that
conversation
INEC did not take into cognizance the results of those 388 polling units. Remember, in this issue of accredited voters and all that, excluded were those 200, the 388
Why
years.
were they excluded?
Okay, that is a question that INEC needs to answer, because that is a contention of Hope Uzodinma before the court, that elections were conducted in this polling unit, and these polling units are recognized, INEC recognized polling units. Unless you are saying they were not recognized polling units. Elections were conducted there by your own POs. So if you now want to contradict that election never took place in those polling units, it's for you now to bring the POs who will now come to court and say there was no election at all. Contrary to what Hupuzodema was saying, there was no election in all those polling units. And I don't think that was done by INEC. And that's why the Supreme Court now relied upon that particular, result that emanated from those polling units, because they are accredited, they are known polling units that INEC itself has recognized. No, unless they're not saying, they're saying that it wasn't recognized.
If they were not certified by INEC.
Beautiful. Now, let me tell you what INEC does. I participated in an election tribunal matter in which INEC refused even to certify their own results. We had copies, from the agents, and we took it to INEC because of INEC has already want to probably have declared somebody that they don't want a situation where it will be upset. They refused to certify. So Supreme Court now in this case has also, affirmed the fact that you can rely on the polling agent's copy. They usually have a copy. After election has been, conducted and, results announced at the polling unit, they always give each political agent, their own copy. They give also the security agents. So if INEC now refuses or fails to certify, you can rely on those, pink copies, all those copies that are given to polling agents or even to the security agent, which is also very important because INEC can frustrate you. They can refuse to certify. And without the certificate, without this thing being certified, you run into problems.
Not to say that that's what happened in this case.
In this case, INEC of course said there was no election in those places.
So they didn't say
but they didn't prove it. They didn't come with any PO who came to court with a practical evidence to say election never took place in all those polling units. I hope you get it right.
Yeah, Mr. Obani, in all this analysis, are we really factoring in some of the issues we see across elections in the country, the irregularities, the rigging, the violence? Because I want to believe that this played a major role in what led up to this time. So are we factoring these things, this reality that people see every day?
We need to. I've been here several times and I'm saying, look, the moment we don't correct our electoral system, we'll be having issues like this. There is so much desperation on the part of the politicians. And why that desperation is that, as I said earlier, the moment you become a winner of an electoral fight, either as a governor or as a local government chairman or as a president, the things of what the perks of office is so innumerable, and then there is no checks and balances by the institutions to checkmate the man that is in power. So you become so rich. And that's why they're ready to do all manner of things. So we need to correct our electoral system. Correcting our electoral system is defining what you're entitled to when you come. I've said it several times. As long as we don't correct it, Ayo, you heard me now.
All right, let's
we argued about this issue the time I came here. Yes,
the thing now is this. Today is a big day.
Yes.
Some decisions will be taken. So they're expecting
Bauchi
Sokoto, Bauchi, yes, Plateau,
yeah.
Benue, Kano.
Yes.
So, of course, as a result of what has happened on Friday, there's so many permutations out there. We're trying not to get caught up with those permutations and analysis. So I'm thinking that, well, who knows? What if we could hypothesize now that in Kano,
yes,
for instance, start with Sokoto.
Yes.
Sokoto goes the way of APC. Kano could go the way of PDP. Who knows what happened in Benue? What if they say in Benue, okay, well, have a rerun? So all of this came about as a result of what happened in Imo.
Yes, right.
Now, people are no longer looking at the facts of the matter. They are just beginning to
politicize judgment,
play chess with what may happen, thinking, look, this is now becoming an arrangement. Say, well, if you're going to take two states of PDP, both Imo and Sokoto, well, you have to give one state, Kano, to Plateau. So where does this head?
Well, the confusion that comes with electoral matters is that sometimes you don't even cite them as precedent. There are this issue of inconsistencies. Most times, Court of Appeal, even sometimes Supreme Court decisions. These inconsistencies is not helping the electoral jurisprudence. If it is a situation where you are very sure this is a decision the Supreme Court has held in previous matter and they will maintain that consistency, of course, you do your permutation, of course, you'll be wrong with your permutations. If you do wrong permutation, political permutation, but if you are doing legal permutation, you will know that this is what the court actually will come up with. So my advice to the judges and to the Supreme Court is that let them maintain consistency, because issue of precedent is key. The moment you distort it, you create a lot of legal confusion in the legal community. Let's try and lay down precedent that will stand the test of time. The truth of the matter is that justice must be done, and the Supreme Court of the land remains the highest and the final court. And they are, remember,
final because they're final, not because they're infallible.
Beautiful. They are infallible because they're final. They are infallible because they are final. So they must
that's
maintain that level of finality and infallibility that all of us attribute to them, without creating some dangerous confusion in our legal community. So consistency is key. So anyone that is permuting, doing the permutation and all that, based upon politics, may get it wrong because the Supreme Court is advised to follow law.
But there is a precedence in this case.
Yes.
Where the
With
case
the Inheritance House case.
Do you see?
What do you think is the precedent in No, what is the ratio?
No, you just said it now. You said it earlier that this
issue of burden now is
this
to me is being reduced now on the
has been reduced and all of that. So an evidence can literally change the trajectory of a judgment.
That's
so
correct.
Do you see that kind of thing happening?
Well, you want me to speculate? I'm not an angel, I'm not I'm not God, but I know that based upon what we have read in the papers concerning those cases that arose from all these states, what would expect today? And I advise Nigerians is to expect justice from the apex court. That is my take.
Justice is a relative terminology these days.
What I mean justice now, justice both to the petitioner and because if you lose a case, you must lose it based upon justice. And even you, the loser, will go home feeling that you have gotten justice.
Seeing that our politics affects a lot of what of our lives in many ways. And of course, if you look at it, 5 states are going to be affected. Already one state, is already being affected. And of course, the spiral effect has gone to a number of other states.
Yes.
What would you be saying to Nigerians now in the event that any of these things, generates the same kind of consequence?
When I speak to the Supreme Court justices, I am saying that they should ensure that justice is done to all these states.
But many people in Imo State do not consider.
I'm coming, sir. Okay. We should expect justice to be done to all these. They should apply the law, not sentiment. They are not going to apply, politics. Then the politicians themselves also must not in any way, be ruled by politics and sentiment. When law is applied, that is what we have. We have brought the matter before the court, so we expect law to prevail and not sentiment and politics. So I expect Nigerians also, when judgment is given by the Supreme Court, for us to respect the court's judgment and not to be doing what we're doing recently.
Now, the protests we saw in different states, much as people will interpret it whichever way they want, they have the right to do that. What does that say? Many will suggest that, look, it's rare for them to see this kind of protests, whichever way, however it happened, against a judgment by the Supreme Court, which is supposed to, as you say, was supposed to see it as justice. So how do you juxtapose all of this protest?
Chamberlain, it's very strange. It's a strange development, and I really agree with you because this is the first time that people openly protest against the Supreme Court judgment. It has never happened. Even with Rotimi Amechi's case, where a man never contested an election and the Supreme Court declared him the governor, the people, he didn't react. But this is the first time we are seeing this, and it's a bit strange. But what I'm saying is that the Supreme Court and the judiciary must still be bold, must be courageous in order to enthrone justice. It's key that even if you are a loser, you will go home feeling that justice has been enthroned. That, to me, is key. And this issue of, creating some confusion in our precedent, in our decisions, should stop. It happens only in electoral matters. All other cases, contract, constitutional issues and all that, we don't have issue. Judiciary has always been very consistent. But in electoral matters, we keep on seeing several decisions from similar facts, and different decisions from similar facts. And that is not healthy. And because of the fact that politicians are trying now to get involved into our judiciary because of electoral matters, we should try as much as possible to remain neutral. Judiciary must be neutral. Judiciary must be bold. Judiciary must be courageous. Judiciary must be interested in justice at every point in time so that we don't begin to have issues like this where people begin to protest Supreme Court decisions. It's not healthy for us as a nation. To me, it's not healthy.
Okay, but moving on now, because I also know that by the time all of this, politicians are looking at all of these things, and then they're wondering, because the other question now is, how do we ensure that it doesn't have to be the courts that will decide what happens an election? Because now, you never can tell what politicians may be thinking. They may say, well, you guys, no problem. Finish whatever you're doing.
That's right.
But we will now focus on how to get the Supreme Court to do something.
It's a very important question.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, pardon me. We need to come back in just a moment. So, join us again. What do we do to ensure we give the people back their right in terms of the power, vote, decide? It doesn't have to be courts to decide.
I agree with you. We should minimal involvement of the courts. should be what we should encourage. We should rather allow the electoral fortunes of politicians to be decided at the electoral booth, at the polling unit. Let the people be the one to decide who governs them.
And it should end there.
And it should end there. You know, so that it can only come to court. Look at what, what took place recently in Britain. You know, how many of the cases are in the British court? They are the one that even gave us law. You know, even in American election. It's only one instance, and that was, how many years ago that Supreme Court had to intervene in the electoral process. So this minimal involvement of our judiciary should be what should be, encouraged. Let's go for an electoral system that is free, fair, and credible. And that credibility comes in when you reduce the perks of office. And I keep on saying it. Unless we address the issue of what people get when they get into political
All right,
position. If you don't address it, these guys will be desperate. They will kill. They will manipulate in order to be there.
Big conversation, big talking points for the days ahead. Who knows if it will be tomorrow after today's Supreme Court rulings, depending on how it goes. But we thank you, as always, for coming on this morning. Onyeka Chubani, former second vice president of the Nigerian Bar Association. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the feedback that you have sent to us. We've got this one from Ademola Afolayan, who says, INEC never accepted the results because they even pleaded that the results were even mutilated. There are video evidence of the proceedings.
And this one is from Ugona E-esque. According to him, it's about the Imo governorship election appeal. Collations officers have no power to reject results. This is trite law. Ehedio INEC ought to have filed a cross-petition challenging the authenticity of disputed votes. You don't set up a new defense by way of reply. You file a cross-petition. That is also trite.
That's correct.
Steve Ogochukwu Mwabwisi says, shouldn't the INEC Nigeria officials who rejected the duly signed results from the affected polling units be sanctioned? 3 question marks. They know they are not supposed to do so.
And their conscience writes, was it APC candidates alone that scored votes in the 328 polling units? Didn't other party candidates score anything at all to be added to their own original score?
Big questions everywhere, I tell you. So maybe there'll be more questions today. You never know.
Yep.
Well, the editors have their job cut out for them this morning. Well, there you go. That is it today on Sunrise Daily SD. Thank you for watching. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
I am Kayode Okikiolu.
I am Ayo Makinde.
And I'm Maokwe Ogunyuso. Thank you for watching.